Hi, so I just wanted to talk about a really disturbing criminal case that happened about 40 years ago and really captured the attention of the media and the public in America. So on May 19th, 1977, 22-year-old Colleen Stan was hitchhiking from Oregon to California to see one of her friends. This is Colleen Stan before her abduction. So this is Cameron and his wife Janice Hooker several years after Colleen Stan was kidnapped. So Colleen Stan gets in the car with Cameron Hooker and Janice, and she trusts them because Janice Hooker has a kid in her arms, and she doesn't have good feelings about this. She's hitchhiking anyway, but she gets in the car and trusts them. And for the next 7 to 10 days, Cameron Hooker, he kept Colleen Stan in a box. Her head was in a box in his basement, and she couldn't see. She was blindfolded, she was gagged, she was naked, and for the next 5 months he ended up just keeping her naked in his basement, beating her, torturing her, raping her, doing unimaginable things to her. And then 5 months later he pulled her out, and this is when things really started to get truly sick. This is the box that Colleen Stan was kept captive in. So in January of 1978, Cameron Hooker presents Colleen Stan with a document, almost like a contract, about this secret entity called the Indenture, and it's about this slave company and all this stuff that she has to do. She has to submit to her master and all this weird stuff that is really just programming her to fear that, if she ends up running off and telling her family, well, then this company is going to come after her and kill her family. So it's really just another way to control Colleen Stan. So gradually Colleen is given more and more freedom as Cameron Hooker realizes that she's probably not going to run away. So she's even allowed jogging outside unsupervised. She could have just ran away. So in March of 1981, Cameron Hooker allows Colleen Stan to visit her family after more than, after years in captivity. They haven't seen her at all. And, she goes back home and visits her family. And here's a disturbing photo of Cameron Hooker and Colleen. So after that 2-day visit with her family, which she doesn't admit to knowing about this slave company because it's not real, and because frankly she's afraid that they're going to kill her family, so she goes back with Cameron Hooker, Colleen Stan does, and for the next 3 years she's kept in captivity, often in the box under the bed. And during this time, Janice Hooker is having some serious doubts about the motivations and the actions of her husband. So after going to several church meetings, Janice Hooker is convinced that Colleen Stan should be set free. So she basically waits for Cameron Hooker to go to work, and she sets Colleen free, where she goes back to her family. But once back at her family, she doesn't even want to really tell the police, and she ends up keeping in contact with the Hookers, and eventually a family friend calls the authorities, and in 1984, Cameron Hooker and Janice are arrested. So at the trial, Colleen Stan delivers a completely flat and emotionless testimony, which really raised some eyebrows as to whether she was brainwashed or whether the sex acts were consensual, which is what the defense was trying to argue. So the prosecution brings forward a expert named Dr. Chris Hatcher. So after observing Colleen Stan, Hatcher determines that she wasn't brainwashed. She was more like coerced into, staying in the box with limited daylight, with limited food. She was really trained to submit to Cameron Hooker. So then Cameron Hooker takes a stand and admits to kidnapping Colleen Stan several years ago, but he says that, he didn't have sex with her and he didn't take her at knife point. So the defense calls their own expert, Dr. Donald Lund, to refute those definitions of coercion, but then the Judge Knight, he really starts ripping into this expert, and he starts basically debating with him and basically throws out his definitions for the jury to consider. So in the end, Cameron Hooker's found guilty on several counts of kidnapping and rape, and he's basically charged for about 100 years. And when he appeals later on, he says that this is unjust and there's too much sentencing going on here, but his pleas for parole are denied, and he's still in jail to this day. So the FBI said this case was basically unprecedented in their history, not only for the crimes that Cameron Hooker committed and the kind of Stockholm syndrome that Colleen Stan might have endured, but also the fact that the judge questioned the expert witnesses and really brought into the question, should we trust expert witnesses and what is their role in criminal cases? All right, that's it. Thank you.